I've got this one line that's really come to the surface this past couple of months, the idea of healing the storyteller so that we can heal the imagination, and then from that be able to heal the culture. And that just landed. I loved that idea, because our imagination's kind of all over the place, and our storytellers have no idea why they're doing what they're doing. So
Well, I don't know that I had heard that line or read it with any attention anyway, but it resonates with me immediately. The
say
idea
why.
of,
Keep going.
well, healing the storyteller, and it's hard for me to explain too much without getting a little personal, but man, in our culture, is it difficult to be a healthy storyteller? I just feel like there's so much about our modern culture and our modern media that kind of assaults storytellers. And I think that as a whole, that hurts us. That hurts us as storytellers, that hurts our culture. And that's not to say there's not a lot of really good things about what modernity has done to the ability to tell stories. I think there's absolutely a lot of benefits of, the internet and, the variety of stories and TV shows, books, whatever that you can consume. But there's a lot that's kind of toxic about it and maybe insulting. So not to go on too far of a tangent, but the idea that the lowest level, right, the principle of subsidiarity, that lowest level is what needs to be fixed first. And in the instance of stories, it's the storytellers, right? If the story isn't coming from a healthy soul, if you will, it's probably going to be harmed.
Yeah, agreed. Agreed. By the way, let's just keep right on going with the conversation if that wasn't
Yeah.
already clear. This is awesome. So, one of the changes that we made with Legend Fiction, our writing community this past year, was to double down on like three central ideas with a bonus one. But three central ideas. One being we're in a meaning crisis right now. And the new movie Thunderbolts, if you haven't seen it, like I really liked that movie. Didn't know what to expect and I loved it. And the characters in it capture this awful sense of angst. Like there's a world and there's problems and stuff needs to be saved. None of the characters, especially Yelena, the main one, she's like, I don't know what anything means or why I should care. In fact, I don't even know what's keeping me in the game at all. And I think a lot of us as storytellers, people in general, readers, we have this struggle, this sense of like, nothing means anything. That's what we're told anyway. We don't actually want to like it or believe it. Well, so therefore we're going to create our own meaning. And like, so we have to create our own meaning because stuff's got to mean stuff. Otherwise you don't do anything. So when you have a generation or a class of storytellers who are like, knowing creativity also means something. It's for something. I've been gifted this. I can't get away from it. And if I do nothing with it, it sours up inside of me, and I go manic and nuts. But then when I engage with it like proactively, it's a healing thing. I feel better, and I like who I am, and I do cool stuff. So we need to restore meaning. That we're in this crisis right now. Second is moral imagination. Second new thing for our community, in that we have to work together to build a way to live that is helpful towards human thriving. And that's outside of traditions, outside of religious frameworks, just like at a basic human level. What does it mean to have a moral imagination? It's not a Christian thing. It's just a human thing. So we need to be able to relate to each other on that sort of thing because we have to live together. Not have to, we get to live together. And the third one, darn, draw a blank. What's the third one? Oh, mythic imagination, right? Mythic sense that there's stuff that is like eternally true, eternally real, that is routinely trying to get down into the human psyche or surface up inside our souls and inside the things that interest us. So, with those three central ideas, I think we can start to heal storytellers plus magic, because magic is cool and we're all about sci-fi and fantasy, and Jedi are basically space wizards, so sue me.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So with those central ideas, we can start to heal storytellers and encourage them to get back into writing, and not even just trying to like change the world with their stories, but like do stuff that's cool and fun that heals you. And then in that process, we sort of let fresh air into what the imagination is as a function of what it means to be a human and how we connect with each other. If we can start to heal some of that, then again, by extension, we can start to heal the culture, because stories are how souls survive. Not just like how your mind sort of maybe lives on data, but your soul lives on stories. That was a bunch. What do you think?
I mean, I can't say anything other than that it really resonates with me. And looking at story as this kind of fundamental ground level way to to heal the culture, right? I think is I think it's prudent in our time. I think it's true that we can do that. We can make an effect, or we can have an effect on our culture. But again, the biggest thing that you've said so far that's swimming in my head, and will probably swim in my head for a while as my kids get in a fight about art. Please forgive them. But the idea of healing the storyteller, I think that's fantastic, and I look forward to learning more. I haven't dug into what that's going to look like at the con. I know what I think I'm going to be doing there, but that sounds really, really good, and I can't wait for it.
So for this conversation, Kris, and hi friends, welcome to the Legend Fiction Show. I'm joined by Kris Ackoury. He's got a novel he's working on. He is joining us at the Legend Haven Con to host an event. We're going to talk a little bit about that later in this conversation. And we'll talk about his novel and what it is that he's writing, why it matters to him. We'll talk about like writing habits, stuff like that. But I want to come back, even though it's a point that I am still learning or developing, this idea of healing the storyteller. Why does it, or what comes to your mind? Like, why does it connect with you? And maybe it's tied to some of your own origin story. Why does it matter? Walk us down that line.
It really does. A lot of my origin story for this particular novel and the series that I'm writing right now really is based on concepts about silence, right? And silence specifically, seeking God, seeking truth, and being able to be still, right? Like a healthy soul can be still. And the other thing that does for me is it helps me write. My creativity, whenever I'm able to be silent, to be still, not just in a physical sense, in a spiritual sense, in my mind, I can write, I can create. And what I've noticed since basically I got signed, so I'm also represented by Anjanette Barr, who's, I think one of your resident
our literary agent.
So I don't want to hate on Anjanette here because she didn't do anything wrong. But one of the things whenever I signed with her, she's like, all right, you got to get on social media now, because I was not on social media and I wasn't really ever on the internet. I had pre-COVID and kind of through COVID, while I wrote Fear of the Sky, which was my novel, I really was away from technology, and it was so fruitful and it was so empowering in terms of my creativity. And when I got signed and got on the internet, I just immediately was struck by, I think, all of the toxic aspects of being online, of the internet. Now, once again, there are a lot of great things about it, legend fiction being one of them, and meeting some other authors. Like, there's some really fantastic things about it, but maybe it's just me. A lot of it probably is just me, but I think I'm particularly susceptible to kind of the bad things that go with being online, the anxiety. I posted this thing and there were 4 people that liked it. Oh, well, I got to keep up with the way this author's doing it, the way that author's doing it. And by the way, if you follow me, you know that I don't do a good job. I post about once a week and it's usually pretty simple. But anyway, I've really had to fight that that kind of whirlwind of being online consistently. And I regularly think, man, this cannot be good for creatives on the whole. There has to be some bad effect from our modern age and the way things work that we have to counter. And once again, not that it's everything, but for people like me, it's a fight, it's a struggle, and I feel like it attacks me. And you talk about healing, I feel like I need healing just from having to have this fight with being online all the time, and have a website, and have the Instagram account is mostly what I use. So, but
Sounds
I look
like
out and I see go ahead.
Yeah, well, it sounds like you're more of a centered, perhaps introverted type of author. There are some authors, like for example, Karina Fabian, right? She's on like everywhere. She's a comedian. She's always putting out stuff. Like, she's somebody I admire for her ability to stay on. I cannot keep on top of social, like, at all. I want to. I like it. I can't create for it very well yet.
Yes,
I should say yet, but it's just not for everybody. And I resonate very deeply with the idea of encouraging people to find their own freedom, and that who you are as an author is not the way somebody else should be an author, and that it's vital for you to stop trying to follow somebody else's 10-step checklist to instant success and $1 million while you're asleep because you did some stupid little book in Canva, which is not how that works. And I'm in marketing, I can say so. Finding your own path, finding your own thing that works with who you are as a person. I think that is not a conversation I hear enough of, and it's one that I think contributes to this idea of healing storytellers. So what's something you would look for with this conversation, or if you were sort of tasked or invited to do something towards healing storytellers, like what are some immediate thoughts that maybe come to your mind that you'd want to walk around or build towards? Anything feel obvious?
Well, to bounce off of what you just said, and I do want to say 100%, like I see Karina is her name, right? I see her on there all the time. And yeah, there are people, particularly, I suppose, extroverted people. I'm a fairly strong introvert. My Myers Briggs is INTJ, and I'm really I.
Oh, I'm IN. Darn it, I forgot. I think it's INTP.
But there are people that are really good at it. And actually, a friend of mine, Katie McGrady, she's a host on the Catholic channel. She's like a national radio host. She's very extroverted, and it doesn't seem to hurt her at all. I mean, she is online all the time. She's a great person. Like, I respect her a lot. And sometimes I'm like, man, why can't I be like that? But in terms of ideas for healing, I would say probably along the lines of what you just said, like for there to be freedom for people to do what is right for them, right? I think and to feel empowered to do what's right for you and not feel like you have to follow a template. I think that would be a good start.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's vital, partly because I've struggled for 10 years trying to figure out marketing, brand building, and all of this stuff, and then to begin to realize I cannot, for the life of me, I cannot make it work the way a type A, Wolf of Wall Street guy out there, and there's so many of them just like apparently winning on YouTube. I don't know if they're winning that hard, why they're on YouTube trying to sell $10 courses, but that's another point. I can't work that way. And I've told myself for the longest time, that's obviously a point of failure. Like I can't get it together. I can't like keep a content calendar, or I can't build a schedule or something. And now I'm beginning to realize, well, maybe it's actually more important to find a way to create my own approach. And what am I trying to say here? Maybe the marketplace needs to be reimagined. Maybe I think that there is a dominant character type, a personality type when it comes to things like marketing in the industry and social. And nobody put them in charge or said that they have to call the shots. I think it's actually pretty vital for us to create our own, because that's just how we work. And I think that readers do appreciate finding people who work along the same wavelengths, the same mental soul framework, the way creating that resonance, that connection with them, as opposed to all of us with our foghorns, bullhorns, on our soapboxes.
Yeah. So let me ask you about that because, okay, you said you do think there's a dominant personality type. I'll tell you, that's my perception, right? But I often wonder, is it really that these are the people that are succeeding as authors, or does it just look that way because these are the people that succeed, on social media or online marketing? Do you have any thoughts about that? You may have more insight into the industry than I do. Probably do.
Don't know that I have as much about the writing industry. Can you ask the question again? What was that question? Just one more time.
Well, I'm just trying to say, do you have your assertion that there is a dominant personality type? Are you just saying that based on what you see on socials? Because I'm just saying I doubt myself sometimes when I see what I think is the dominant personality type. I see that these people that are posting every day and do these little clips and, have 1,000 likes or whatever. But I wonder sometimes, okay, is that reflective of reality? Like, is that someone who is really succeeding in terms of, selling books, if you will?
Yeah. Okay. I think I understand. Good question. There's two thoughts. One is everything in life is a game. It's some degree of fun or some degree of not fun. It's an awful game. And so there are some people who learn to play the rules of the game really, really well. And with something like social media, it's effectively a game. And if you learn to play it and you're deft with how you understand the rules and so on, then you're going to look like you're going to win a lot. And of course, the algorithm will like that because it's looking for content that contributes to watch time and engagement. And so if you can hack and figure out those metrics, you turn into people like, I don't know, the Mr. Beastification of content,
Yeah.
And okay, it works. You do have to ask about the quality of what that means, because it certainly benefits the 1% of creators because they run a heck ton of ads on the content that they create and stuff. The other thing where I'm coming from in this, there's a personality typing tool that I appreciate called the Enneagram. And one of the priests who studied it made an interesting point that every country has a dominant personality type. That may or may not be true, but it is lionized at a specific point in a culture, or just from early on, it just becomes like the dominant thing. And so America is primarily a type 3. And that is a business-minded go-getter, doesn't stop, juice in the, in the morning.
Grinding.
Everything is the grind. You win. It's a game. You get to the top. You're the alpha. Okay. That is the dominant attitude in business and media, and how people talk about and think about business. And so there can be some benefit to it. It's not, it's not at its core bad or wrong or anything. It's just when you do it too much, or you do it to an extreme, or see, in the Enneagram, there's like 9 personality types. To take one and elevate that above all others and then force everybody into the same mold creates all of the issues that you and I have, where we're like, I'm not a 3. In my case, I'm a 5. Or somebody else, like, I'm a 9. I will never do what a 3 does to win. That's just, there's nothing happy in life for me to do that. So I'm very interested in this idea of sort of diagnosing and understanding how are people motivated in their own ways to want to figure out success. And then the sort of challenge that comes with that is, how do you then play that game inside the social media game? Because it's kind of built for people who like to win and win hard, and then do nothing else in their life but keep playing the game. And the social media rewards that. And there's some people out there who I think have found a way to get through that, to sort of change how that is done. And that the way that they are winning is they're building really authentic connection with people who really care. And they're doing it in their own time, on their own terms. And it's a much longer game. It's a much slower game, but it's a lot more intentional. And they're also probably doing it off social media as well, so that there's kind of a net effect across multiple, your email, your website, your YouTube channel, your Instagram, and across all of that, people like to follow you. And so it's a different kind of game. I don't know if any of this answers your question.
I think the dominant personality type actually probably does. But no, that was great thoughts. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your origin story, such that you're now writing this novel about the different shades of silence.
Yeah. Well, that's how it started. I'll say that. In terms of my origin story, do you mean with these novels that I'm working on right now, or just like why I started writing?
Yeah. Who is Kris? What do you do outside of work? You have a family?
Yeah.
Or where did you grow up? If you want to get into all of that, it's up to you.
No, sure. South Louisiana. I've lived here all my life, and I've lived in Lake Charles, which is Southwest Louisiana, for most of my life. I went to grad school at LSU and then moved back here with my wife. I've got my 5th kid due tomorrow. I think I was just telling you that before we started
as of this recording, congratulations.
Yeah, so if I get called out because, I got to go to the hospital.
Stuff's going down. Yep.
But I've got 5 kids. They're great. My wife is a real trooper. Very, very supportive of a author husband. But in terms of why I started writing, I kind of did the thing where I couldn't quite find a book that fit what I wanted. And so I decided one day, well, I'm going to start giving it a shot. I wrote for a while, and then I got really serious when I got into the series that I'm writing right now, of which the first thought was about silence. I actually read a book by Cardinal Robert Sarah called The Power of Silence. And it just really inspired me because I thought the world needed silence. And so I kind of blended that with our world right now in particular needs to learn to cultivate silence and to respect the sense of the sacred in the silence. And so that was the genesis. I don't know that I can get into plot whenever you're ready, but that was kind of the first, I guess, the genesis of why I started writing the books I'm writing.
Let's walk around that just for a second. Like, why do you think our culture has such problem with silence, such that, we don't practice it at all? And I don't want to just blame smartphones because, well, what do you think?
Well, it's always been a problem. It's funny because you can go back and read before smartphones. You can, and even kind of modern, you can read some C.S. Lewis in Screw Tape Letters. The demons talk about using noise and to destroy souls, if you will. And that he talks about the radio being terrible. If he only knew, look what I can have in my hand now. So I think it's just a human tendency. And because of our kind of exponential advance in technology, it's become a particular problem in our society right now. It's not just smartphones, but I do think smartphones are a huge piece of it. And just, the internet, having TV, and none of that's bad. So I don't want to sound too much like a curmudgeon that's being like, everybody should just be off the internet and not have a smartphone.
They said on a podcast. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not saying that at all, but I do think we need to learn like when to put it down. And most people, you talk about this and like, oh, I'm on my phone too much. Most people are willing to admit, I'm scrolling too much. I can't think whenever I scroll before bed or whatever. But it's really hard for us, and myself included, to really put into practice that temperance, right? Like, when do I get rid of that? So
Yeah, I think we don't have anybody in our North American Western culture, maybe. I can't think of any. We don't have any people that our culture holds up who practice the virtue, the disciplines of silence to like a degree of excellence. Like if you go outside, perhaps the pre-modern cultures, you would have monks and you'd have monasteries, right? You'd have nuns, you'd have gurus, you'd have these different figures in their chapels, you'd have mystics out in the desert, right? They're all over the world, and most cultures would recognize these people are special. They are actively pursuing a path of silence and communion with the gods, with the holy ones, the spirits, and so on. And we are reverent and careful, and we seek wisdom from them. And then you get our North American Western culture. We don't have anybody or anything in that slot, and so it just doesn't show up in our attention and our psyche as an option to take seriously. And I think that sort of comes back to the beginning, the idea of healing the storyteller, right? Because if you can't be silent for a minute in your own mind as somebody who wants to write stories, well, you're just going to keep losing all your ideas. You're going to keep missing things. But yeah, on a deeper level, like keep the smartphones, keep the internet, and all of this, and Netflix, cable. But there needs to be this deeper layer, this deeper culture that we can step away from that. And it's good to be silent. It's good to, well, what do you do with silence, right? Everybody has different either meditative practices or intentions that they rotate in and out of for silence. Silence isn't an end goal. It's a byproduct of trying to achieve or accomplish something else, maybe. What do you think about that?
yeah, I do think, I think silence basically allows you to clear your mind and soul to pursue things that matter, and like to reach for the depths of your own soul and your own mind. And when you're not silent, it gets really hard to get that deep. But in terms of what I do, I mean, the biggest thing I do is I pray every day in the morning. First thing I do. So I wake up very early, and this gets into my writing schedule. I generally wake up between 3:30 and 4, and yeah, I'll grab my coffee. I'll say prayer. It could be 15 minutes. It could be 45 minutes, and then depending on where I am in my writing at that moment, I'll go and I'll write or I'll plot. I go for a run and I go to work by about 6:30. So that's huge, though, having that time in the morning, especially with kids. I mean, kids are not. They're a little bit of obstacles to silence, and they should be. They're not silent. Acquiring silence isn't more important than loving my kids, but they need a lot. So those early mornings are huge for me.
Wow. So let's talk writing habits. So you write daily
I try to do
ish?
something daily. You wouldn't know it from
Okay.
the word count of my current novel, but I attempt
Okay.
to. Yes.
Okay. Cool. So you're in the middle of, well, you're working on your sequel, the second novel?
Yes, which is a standalone in its own right, but it's set in the same world, a lot of the same rules, different culture, which was, I could talk about that all day. But yeah, and the first and second book in this series I'm writing are both going to be standalones that you can read without having read either of the other one. And then the third book will bring the characters from the first two together.
Interesting. Let's talk about the novel. What is it?
Yeah. Yeah, the novel's called Fear of the Sky. For all the talk about silence, I pitch it as it's a father who is a bit of a curmudgeon who has to save his daughter, and he has to prevent her from being sacrificed to a dragon. It's post-apocalyptic, so he's kind of got to travel across this post-apocalyptic dragon-destroyed world and work with a bunch of people that he doesn't get along with if he wants to save her. That's the main thread, anyway.
Wow. What inspired that? That's a fun Saturday read.
Yeah. Well, so the main character is Aiko, and really, there's some more kind of themes that I write about, particularly in the first novel that we're pitching right now. A lot of the themes were inspired by actually kind of looking around at American political culture and the way we so frequently dehumanize those who see differently from us. So, as you can imagine, that lends itself really well to a religious character, if you will, which Aiko is a religious character who has this kind of misplaced animosity towards people that don't think like him. But it was absolutely inspired by seeing people, including people I loved, and including some of my own thoughts that I guess I'm not proud of. But when you look out across the world and you see people who think something that's just very different from you, and we have a tendency to, as a whole, to kind of dehumanize them, to make them into less than they really are, and not consider their experience and their opinions as much as we should. And that's not to say that everybody's right. I'm not a relativist, but generally speaking, when people have disagreements, there's a lot you can learn from the people that you disagree with. And I think it's a real shame we don't. A lot of people don't seem to recognize that, and they don't seem to seek it out when people disagree with them. So that was kind of the inspiration for Aiko, on top of all the stuff about silence.
How do you, okay, don't give away the ending or, whatever. How do you weave those together into it's a fantasy world, right?
Yes, really. Yes. Well, I would start by saying, honestly, there's 3 points of view you read from. So the silence and lack of silence story, Aiko is a key part of it, but you mainly see those themes explored in another character, where Aiko is the one with whom I explore the kind of trying to reach across the aisle, trying to understand people who don't think like you. So it was multiple POVs is my answer.
What's the feel and the vibe of the world that you've built?
It's very grounded. There's actually, don't reach out of your computer and slap me for this. There's no magic. There's some gods, obviously, but it's very, very grounded. I went for ground level, personal stories with a little bit of an epic backdrop that you kind of you break into these big battles every once in a while, or this big dragon attack or something. But grounded. I always wanted my dragons to feel something more like the Tyrannosaurus Rex from Jurassic Park than like Smaug. Like, I wanted to feel like this real animal that could be walking in the forest somewhere near your home.
So yeah, let's talk more about dragons, because those are always fun. How are they imagined in your world? Are they done differently, or are you using some pretty comfortable approaches from other stories?
Yeah, I would say that they're fairly comfortable. I didn't want it to be too difficult. I just tried to make them very. I'm a biologist as my undergrad degree, so I'm a biology guy. So I was very interested in making them feel like real animals. I did a little bit of different stuff with them. The way that their fireworks, right? I limited the way their fireworks. They have kind of a flammable liquid that comes out of their mouth, and there's a clicking, there's an igniter gland, and so it sets up this ability to create tension in scenes where they run out of their fire fluid, but it's going to be back in a few minutes, So, but generally, if you like dragons, you're not going to have a problem with the dragons I wrote.
Well, that's cool. Target audience. Who do you anticipate enjoying your novel?
I tried to write it for as general of an audience as I could. Certainly targeted fantasy readers, but also I wanted it to be a book that was easy enough to read so that someone that doesn't read fantasy would have no problem picking it up and enjoying it, it does seem that I succeeded at that. Beta reads and some bunch of early reads I've had with people that do not read fantasy seems that it's easy for them to enjoy it.
Oh, how cool. What did they say they loved most about the story?
Well, I get pacing, honestly, and the intricacy. It's easy to read, but it's intricate. So like, it stays interesting, but it's not difficult to read. It doesn't drag at any point. Some people really like what I did with Aiko, though it's a little more polarizing. The female main character, which is the third POV you read from, I get a lot of like for her. A lot of people really enjoy her story, which is kind of this basic story of revenge, or potential revenge for a dragon that killed her family.
Oh, that's cool. Well, a couple of closing sort of rapid fire thoughts. What are you reading these days?
I'm actually currently reading A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens, and also reading The Lord of the Rings aloud to my children. So that's been a very interesting and fun experience. So it's going slow. It'll probably take me about a year to finish it with them, but it's good.
It's a pilgrimage. Movies. You watching anything these days that you're enjoying?
I haven't watched a whole lot. I really wanted to like the new Jurassic Park. Couldn't like it.
The latest one that just landed?
Yeah, the Jurassic
Okay.
World. I am looking forward to the. I know they're about to start shooting the new Dune movie. I really enjoyed those two Dune movies that they made recently. Um,
Yeah, cool. What do you like about Dune? What is it about the Dune world that you like?
well, the fact that it was, I would not, what I understand about the author and the intention behind the story, I'm not going to say I align exactly with everything he's trying to say, but I really appreciate, first of all, from the source material, the depth of thought that went into it. I respect that. In terms of the movies, I think that they convey the tone of the books really well, and they are very grounded. So I would
Yeah.
love for my books to feel as grounded as the Dune movies feel. I'll say that.
Yeah, I've seen them both. I've seen the new ones each once, but the sense of they feel very immediate and very massive, which is their intent, and very not just tactile, but you're dealing with impossibly imagined things, and so they find very clever ways to make it feel very real, very believable.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so you're coming to
Tactile's good. I like that.
yeah, awesome. You're coming to the Legend Haven Con. It's going to be your first year with us. You're hosting maybe a half hour to an hour. Meet the author, AMA. What can people look forward to joining you in the expo booth? What can they look forward to learning from you, or just
Yeah, sure. No, get out of here. My oldest wants to get on the interview. So yeah, I'll be reading a little bit from Fear of the Sky, the novel I've talked about a little bit here today, and I may be giving away some art that my sister's working on. I'm trying to work on that right now, but I'm interested to meet people. Like I said, if anybody wants to know about my journey, maybe how I landed Anjanette, who is a fantastic agent, or what that was like, or what it's like been to pitch and query agents and pitch publishers. I'm very interested to talk to anybody, take any advice. If anybody has any advice, I'm always open for that. But I do look forward to meeting some folks.
so you're still in the early stages of getting the book published, so it's not yet available. I assume there's no cover yet. So if people want to learn more about you and follow your adventures and get a copy of the book when it lands, where can they find you online?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram at KNACKOURY. That same KNACKOURY writer at .com is my website. You can subscribe to my email list. I don't send out a lot of emails, but I will if and when things begin moving.
Yeah.
So
No, you're
yeah,
just more intentional about it.
yes,
Yeah.
that's right.
Well, I mean, not to say that others aren't, but yeah, you just do it at a slower pace because that's who you are. Cool. Kris, thanks for coming on. It was good to spend time with you.
Yeah, I do appreciate it, man.